The mansion on the hill gleamed under the morning sun, but behind its golden gates and marble floors lived chaos no amount of wealth could fix. Alexander Drake, a self-made millionaire known for his brilliance in business, was utterly helpless at home. His 6 daughters, bright, wild, and each with her own defiant heart, had run off 37 nannies in just 2 weeks. The youngest drew on walls with lipstick, the middle one set loose frogs in the kitchen, and the oldest 3 had already mastered the art of rebellion, refusing lessons and tormenting anyone who dared to discipline them. Every morning began with shouting, every evening ended in tears. The help whispered that the girls were cursed, that no one could ever control them. But Alexander knew the truth. They weren't cursed. They were hurting. Ever since their mother passed away 3 years ago, the girls had been lost, abandoned emotionally, even as their father worked tirelessly to build an empire. The day the 37th nanny ran out screaming with her hair soaked in paint and juice, Alexander stood by the grand staircase and sighed. "No more," he muttered. "I'll raise them myself if I have to." That was when the doorbell rang. Standing there was a woman in a plain blue dress, holding a small suitcase and wearing an expression of calm courage. "I'm here about the maid position," she said softly. Her name was Clara. She had no references, no fancy education, just a quiet strength that made the head butler pause before turning her away. "You don't want this job," he warned. "It's impossible." Clara smiled. "Impossible is just something that hasn't been tried the right way yet." And with that, she stepped into the mansion that had devoured dozens before her. At first, the girls ignored her. The oldest, Grace, rolled her eyes and said, "Another one? She'll be gone by tomorrow." But Clara didn't flinch. She began by cleaning their rooms, not scolding, not complaining. When one of the twins threw flour on the floor just to watch her sweep it, Clara simply laughed and handed her the broom. "If you're going to make a mess," she said kindly, "help me make it clean again." The little girl blinked in surprise, unsure how to respond to kindness instead of anger. It was the first crack in their wall of defiance. Over the next few days, Clara didn't just clean. She listened. She learned each child's name, their fears, their favorites, their moods. She discovered that Grace loved horses but hadn't ridden since her mother's death. That Lily cried herself to sleep clutching her mother's scarf. That the twins, Emma and Ella, caused trouble not out of spite but to get noticed. Clara began to weave magic, not with spells, but with patience and love. She baked with them, read stories by the fire, and even convinced them to help her with chores by turning them into games. Slowly, laughter returned to the halls that had been silent for years. When Alexander came home one evening to find his daughters giggling as they set the table with Clara, he froze. How did you do this?" he asked in disbelief. Clara just smiled. "Children don't need control, Mr. Drake. They need connection." Days turned into weeks. The girls began to adore Clara, not because she was strict, but because she understood them. Alexander started to notice changes within himself too. He found reasons to come home early, to share dinner, to actually listen. One night, as he stood in the doorway watching Clara read bedtime stories to all 6 girls, huddled under a blanket, something inside him broke. The guilt, the loneliness, the grief. After the girls drifted to sleep, he whispered, "I've failed them, haven't I?" Clara turned to him, eyes gentle. "No, sir, you just forgot how to love after losing too much. But love isn't gone. It's waiting for you to remember." That night, Alexander sat with his daughters for the first time in years and told them stories about their mother. The girls clung to him, crying and laughing all at once. It was the beginning of healing, something no amount of wealth could buy. A month later, the house was transformed. Where once there was shouting, there was singing. The staff smiled. Even the gardens bloomed brighter. Clara had done what 37 professionals couldn't. She gave the family back its heart. One morning, Alexander called her into his study. "Clara," he began, "I hired you as a maid, but you've become much more than that. You've saved my daughters, and in doing so, you've saved me. I want to offer you a permanent place here, not as a servant, but as family." Tears welled in her eyes. "Sir, I only did what anyone should. Care." He shook his head. "No, Clara, you did the impossible." The story of Alexander Drake and the maid who healed his home became a quiet legend in their town. It reminded everyone that love and patience can accomplish what power and money never could. Sometimes the simplest hearts carry the greatest strength. If this story touched your heart, remember, kindness costs nothing, but it changes everything. Subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories that remind us that miracles still live in ordinary people. And sometimes the smallest act of care can change an entire world. Subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories that remind us that miracles still live in ordinary people. And sometimes the smallest act of care can change an entire world.